everybody. It's Rob, National Fire Radio. Sitting here in the studio today with Glenn Watts from the Camur Tool. He's also a lieutenant in Norwich Fire Department in Norwich, Connecticut.
Yep.
And he's going to kind of go over a little bit today with us the tool that he designed and how he came up with the idea, the concepts, and just a little bit about him. So, Glenn, kind of take it away. Where are you from and what do you got?
I actually just moved to Hebron, Connecticut as of last year, but I spent most of my time in Manchester. Manchester and Norwich, Connecticut were instrumental in supporting this tool in its infancy of just trying to go through demos and trying to find out what the tool could do.
Yeah.
So, I've been a career firefighter for 15 years now with Norwich, and I was a volunteer for 4 years before that in Vernon, Connecticut. That's where I got my start. But in the last, I'd say now, I guess we're coming up on 9 years now, the tool has been kind of developed in the first few years around 2010. I applied for a patent in 2011 and was granted the patent in 2014. Started the business in 2015, and we're just slowly chugging along. My time is obviously spent between the career fire service. I teach part-time at the Connecticut Fire Academy as well. I have a young family with 2 boys and a wife. So as most firemen are, we've got many jobs and spread thin. So
tons of free time, right?
Yeah, tons of free time. So, but I can't help myself, so I keep going into more and more stuff. So this tool kind of became a small business in 2015.
So where did the tool kind of come from? Because I remember, and how I found you was we were talking about forcible entry in the firehouse, and one of our firefighters, Ryan Keefe, was like, "Oh, I got this tool. It's the kind of the same thing you're talking about." And I was like, "Oh, this is awesome. Where is this?" And he's like, "Oh, I found it online." Mm-hmm. So, where did you get the idea for this?
So, pretty much everybody, as a new firefighter, their senior guy or senior officer says, have a screwdriver or some type of tool. And then they show you all different ways you could use these tools on the fire ground. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, as a new firefighter in Norwich and stuff, a couple lieutenants had flat-bladed screwdrivers. A couple people had putty knives, and they were trying to mess with the doors to jimmy them open if they didn't have Knox box keys or if it was a multifamily. I mean, Norwich, Connecticut is an older mill city. There's row frames, triple deckers, multifamilies have been diced up. So you can imagine that a lot of the doors that are put in these apartments and stuff are many generations of apartment doors. So either the homeowner, the landlord, or something puts them up there. They're not perfectly sized to the frame, nor is the lock of good, secure quality. So with those two things, most firemen can manipulate the door and get through them with no problem. Okay. So again, those two tools were screwdriver and a putty knife. Mm-hmm. So we go to these places over and over for medical calls or even fire alarms, and you're waiting around for a key holder, or you're blowing out a door. Or if it's a lift assist or something, you don't want to mess the door up. You're trying to find alternate ways, either going through a window or trying to finesse the door open.
Right.
So with
customer service end of things, we don't want to be destroying property when we don't have to destroy property.
Absolutely. But most of the time, I mean, I think everyone's been on the job where someone's jamming a screwdriver in there and you're mucking up the wood and trim, or you're totally messing up the latch. Or let's say it's a repeat offender type of house that you go to all the time. That door lock is pretty mucked up. And it doesn't really work. So the tools that we're using are only making the lock worse and worse the more times we go there. So looking at the anatomy of the lock, I was just kind of figuring out how can you pry, leverage, and move this lock? And I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, in order to get an outward swinging door, you have to get to the bevel portion on the backside. So how do you do that? You can't, because if you're looking at the door latch right now on this outward swinging. I'm looking at a flat section and an anti-loading pin right here. Right. So those types of things, people get a pocket knife in there and a screwdriver, they're trying to monkey with them, and every time it slips off, the lock re-engages, and you're like, motherfucker, and you're ticked. And then people are like, all right, so what's the status? Are we getting in this door, boys? And then everyone's like, well, give me another minute. And everyone's trying to sit there, screw with it. So I'm looking at it. What do you need to do to overcome this door lock? So I'm thinking all right, I need to get to the back side now. How much space do I have to play with from that latch to the back of the door jamb? And I'm like, you don't have much. Right. But then I'm like, all right, well, you got a solid backstop or a rabbet or a doorstop there that you can push off of. So what if I rotate the tool off the back of the door jamb? And I'm like, all right, this is working. So I made my own tool, crafted it off of a grinding wheel. And most people are creative enough to figure out what they need to do, and they make their own stuff. And then when my handmade tool was starting to work really well, guys were like, "Hey, make me one." So I'm like, "Hey, this is going pretty good." And
how many tools do you make for other brothers and sisters in a job before you were like, "I have something here"?
Probably 2 or 3. And
Okay.
At that point, I got on the page of, all right, how do I protect this? Because I think this is really working out for me.
Mm-hmm.
And a couple people prodded me because sometimes I need a little bit of motivation. They're like, "Dude, you should really go after this." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is cool." So about that time, I was with our second child, and my wife and I are trying to do our wills.
Mm-hmm.
So we met with an attorney. I'm like, "Hey, listen, on the side note, after we get this stuff done, how do I go about getting an application for a patent and stuff? What do I do? What do I need to do?" So she recommended going through the state school system. So, I mean, I was a graduate of UConn, and she said, "Go through UConn Law, see if they'll do something for you." So I called up, application process, long, lengthy application process. They took me on as a client. So they did all my legal fees for me and stuff and worked with me on the narrative to protect the invention. So,
I think just to point that out, because there's a lot of people listening out there, and for anybody that's a firefighter coming up with a tool, it's a resource that's available to us that not a lot of people understand. Like I know the New Paltz School of Business, they'll take businesses on and help them. They do, like, so you apply for it, and then they'll help you plan your business. And it's actually a class project for the students to learn.
It's huge because those grad students get the education because they need subject matter.
Yeah.
And the clientele will get a benefit of it too, because their whole incentive for School of Law or intellectual property law, like for patents and stuff, they want to keep manufacturing and stuff within the state. So it helps the state school, helps the students, it helps the people. Especially, I mean, let's be realistic. Most firefighters have 2 jobs. I mean, they're busy people that they like stuff. So they are busy people because they're paying for bills, and they don't necessarily have many thousands of dollars to drop on an invention or to seek out something. Everyone's got that, "Hey, I wonder if," and then they get defeated realizing that it's either already been created or it's going to take a shit ton of money to get to that stage, so they drop.
Yeah.
So there have been so many people that have helped me along the way. I can't even begin to describe, but I mean, with UConn Law helping me out with the whole patent application, to a friend of a friend that introduced me to a machine shop to start the first couple iterations of this. To get to the Norwich Fire Department and the Manchester Fire Department, a town I lived in, a town I worked in, knew a bunch of guys there, and they were nice enough and kind enough to support purchasing the stock that I had of the prototypes, because as you can imagine, the patent process is a pain in the ass, and the government, that they sit on things, they're backlogged for 2.5 to 3 years. So in that process, it got spit back to me that there was something similar out there, which was like a crash axe, nothing completely remotely similar to this.
Yeah.
But because the wording of the patents, the government didn't like it, so they rejected it, but they give you another year to reapply. Of course, they nab you for more money for application process. So I had to come up with like $1,000 for an application, and the only thing I could do was sell the prototypes I had to continue the whole process, because I already had it, in the flow of patents. So again, the Norwich guys and a friend of mine out of Manchester I think we sold about maybe 60, 70 tools. And I was able to generate enough revenue to submit the next application. And then about 1.5 years after that, I got awarded. I got a phone call and said, "Hey, listen, you're from the attorneys." They said they were going to award you the patent. And I was pumped.
And I think it's pretty cool that you had like the Brotherhood of the Fire Department helping you out. I mean, we jokingly say, like, we have this saying from one of Jeremy's friends that, solid brothers doing solid brother things. Like, it's a pretty solid thing for people to do, is get out there and help you with this project, especially, not expecting anything in return from it, other than knowing that you have a good tool and it's going to help save lives. So I think that's
that was awesome. Cool. Yeah, I got a bunch of people to thank for that. And just as it's been going, I have been one of the luckiest people in terms that throughout the course of life, obviously the firefighter community and networking with friends has opened up doors, but it seems like my career, life path has dropped me into a certain event where I've met or networked with somebody who was able to open up another door, who was able to just point me in the right direction, give me some type of guidance. And again, it's been fun.
What are what are some, like, have you gotten feedback from users of your tool and been like, hey, we had a real, like, have you gotten the feedback of the success stories of people using the tool?
I have had amazing feedback. I started obviously a Camur Tool Facebook site, and again, guys are using it, and it comes back with favorable reviews. Guys are using it for lockouts or fire alarm when they don't have Knox box keys and stuff like that. Even medical emergencies where there's like a lift assist or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's all been favorable. I'm very happy and pleased that the tool has done so well in such a short time.
Awesome. Yeah.
I actually have some more of those connections. So in 2015, I was enrolled in one of the state programs for a class or so, and again, thinking about getting the business up and running, having received the patent about 6 months prior. So now we're in the spring of 15. The guys in the class that I was taking, I think it was a fire officer 1-2 program or something like that. They were all interested that I wanted to start the business and like, hey, listen, we want tools. So for that class, I think I sold about 20 of them. And then, again, I have the Connecticut Fire Academy to thank. Being affiliated with them since 2008, they do a summer June school, they call it. So the first week of June, collection of classes and stuff and hands-on training. They have like a vendor or two that would show up, and they're always looking for new people. So they offered up an option for me to come up there and showcase the tool, and that was a hot commodity. I mean, I was getting guys on breaks in between classes. They were like, I showed them my video, showed them the tool. I don't believe I had the door prop at the time, but a couple short videos of showing them how to use it in the field. Instantly hooked. Guys were buying them left and right. And then a vendor that was sitting beside me, Shipman's Fire Equipment out of Connecticut, they're out of Waterford, made some headway with them. They were interested, and I ended up talking to their marketing manager, awesome guy, solid guy. He's like, hey, listen, we might be interested in helping you along. It would, mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
So we started talking, and for a period of 2 months and stuff, they were able to promote the tool and try to get some traction with that, which was huge.
Yeah.
We ended up going in together with I don't know if it was a half page or full page article in First Responder newsletter for New England. And this was like a month or two before the New England Fire Chief Show. So just that article alone and being affiliated with this company as a brand new startup, it was huge.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to New England Chief Show, paired up with a friend of a friend. And again, hot commodity. Guys were digging it, buying them left and right. And then the feedback started coming in after that from the field saying...
Yeah, I remember you saying that you could get into buildings faster than the Knox box keys.
Yeah.
And like, we're both lieutenants, so like that Knox box keys are always something that I have to pull out of the rig.
Yeah.
And I thought about that because I know we have, like, the one guy who actually uses this tool, it's probably what he's using. Because all of a sudden Ryan will jump off the rig and I'll watch my squirrel run, and all of a sudden he's in the building. And I'm like, I don't even have the keys out of the Knox box yet, and he's already like, hey, come on, let's go inside.
Exactly.
So
I mean, like, you're the first responding officer to the scene. You're going to get the Knox box key, and if the keys are up to date, now you're the only set of keys in the building, and all your either your second, third due, or even your mutual aid companies come into a complex or a scene, they don't have keys. So now you got to, obviously chalk the doors and stuff like that, but you have to essentially follow this guy around the building with the only set of keys to go clear rooms for alarms, to go to secure the utilities and whatever. And so now this tool, I mean, it's not an end-all be-all, but damn, it'll get through a lot of doors.
Yeah, I think of our apartment, one apartment complex, we have the one building, the alarm panels down in the basement to do the reset and the silence and everything, but you have one key going upstairs to the apartment, you want to send somebody down with a panel.
Yep.
And especially when you have people meeting, it's food on the stove, and you're still going in to check anyway. But it's just that routine. It's a night. Most guys are carrying, like you said, putty knives, screwdrivers, shove knives. They've tried to modify, and they're just not having the same effect as what you have here.
Yeah, I mean, it works really well. And the other thing is, like, if let's say you're at one of those complexes and they have a dedicated key holder. We've all been to those calls at 2 a.m. and it's like, half an hour, dispatcher's telling you, half an hour to 45 minutes for a key holder. And you may free up some units, but you still got a crew dedicated to babysit that call.
Yeah.
If it's a BS call, I mean, you could take care of this, manipulate, do what you need to do, and then get back on the road ready for the next call.
Well, and one of the other avenues of the tool that I think that's not looked into, like not just in your tool specifically, but just in forcible entry, is like EMS and police. Like we talked a little bit before. We just did a forcible entry class for some of the members of the sheriff's office and the FBI who were, they need to get into some buildings because there's some nefarious people doing some nefarious stuff, and they're going to.
So I'm happy to say that I've been contacted by numerous police departments and sheriff departments throughout the Eastern Seaboard. A friend and a connection of mine bought some for I believe the Eastern and Western ESU teams, I guess, for the state police, so the Connecticut State Police. So they've seen it and used it. I'm still waiting to hear some feedback from it. But for silent entry and going through some, and here's the other thing, I was able to, while meeting that person to show him the tool, he involved the drug enforcement and their narcotics division, because not only is this tool awesome for picking door locks, there's other features on the tool. There's a seatbelt cutter. There's an oxygen valve for EMS, which we can talk about too. But the beak on this lockpick tool is great for removing the trim panels of your cars. So obviously we use it to peek and pry for airbags and high pressure airbags and lines and stuff like that, and then seatbelt to possibly quickly remove somebody. But I showed the narcotics guy because, if they, again, I don't know anything about the police side of it, but I'm assuming that if they had a drug dog that are making a hit or a detection, they could probably seize the vehicle and peek and pry themselves. But I mean, this thing will speedily take off the trim on your posts, or I've skinned a door in training events and stuff like that. You can stuff it down. You can actually, all you need to do is pop the clips, and then when you've take those retaining clips away, the door panels come off fairly easily. Yeah. So, I mean, just showing the narcotics officer that, he's like, that's pretty slick. Yeah, so. Especially, I mean, I watched a lot of border wars, so watching these vehicles come across and the dog starts barking at it, and then they're like, well, let's take this panel off. And it's like, wow, look at all the drugs that were in there. That's just, and even for the EMS people, I mean, you have the option key on there, but I mean, I know that it's a lot of times fire departments get called for forcible entry to assist EMS into a residence, and it's a simple through the lock method of, doing, and it's minimal damage, and this would be something that they can have in, because I mean, if they get in there and that person's in cardiac arrest and they can shimmy that door open and now they're delivering care, I mean, hey, we'll still come help them out, but it's all around, it's another audience that we can really. Absolutely. I mean, it's nice to have all the services there to help out with, EMS and fire and stuff, but like, be realistic. I mean, most of the country is fairly rural. Mm-hmm. You might have a resident state trooper, or you maybe have just an ambulance service, and that fire department's quite a ways away. Yeah. So, like you said, I mean, you could pop some door locks, or if you needed a tool for an oxygen or whatever, cutting surface, that you could also use this. I've also experimented a couple times with, EMS may end up taking some type of patient with, the nylon cuffs that the police use. Yeah. Typically, if you restrain somebody, the police officer goes with the ambulance and stuff. But if you needed to remove those nylon zips pretty quick too, this acts like a gaff. You can kind of get up in between it and pop. Let's say they're having a cardiac event or something like that. But there's a ton of ways to use this. Even some feedback from Charleston, South Carolina. One of the instructors up at the academy, where he comes up to do lab runs and stuff. He took the tools down south with him, and he was telling me that some of the guys, the old style double hung windows have the old slide latch, like the disc shape, the UFO shaped saucer. Yeah. So he stuffed it up between the stashes, and he was able to tap it and turn the lock so they could gain entry through windows. I thought that was pretty awesome. We were trying to duplicate that and stuff, and you can actually pop a couple of the double hung windows. I'm looking at our window over there in the studio, and I'm like, all right, let's give this a try. That afterwards. One, I think, overhangs, but I mean, that in an industrial setting, like, a commercial setting, you have the large screens for the exterior windows. And a lot of the time there's those removable pins only on the inside of the frame. Mm-hmm. So let's say you're trying to get into a building from the exterior. You can slide this underneath the screens and then turn the beak so you actually grab the bottom of the screen. You can actually pop and leverage it. You'll have a grab point for removing screens. But I mean, it's amazing how many text messages, conversations I've had with people that have used it, and they're telling me all different creative ways that they've used it. Because, I mean, let's be realistic, the firemen come up with some awesome awesome ways to make the job work. So,
yeah.
But I'm just happy, like the success stories make me smile because, I mean, all I ever wanted to do was bring something cool to the table and then to use it in my department to then pass it around to departments in the state through friends and then to find out, like, going across the country. Like that was an aha moment. Within 3 or 4 months, I had my first sale to California.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, holy crap. I just went from east to west in 3 months. And then, when they start popping up, and I would really like to go through my software and put like little pin marks all over the country to find out where it is. It's a source of pride. I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
Anchorage, Alaska. I'm like, holy crap. Like, it's amazing to think that Connecticut to Alaska is just mind blowing.
Right. And it's also the idea that you had, you came to you at work or something like that, and now it's it's really traversed coast to coast. So that's awesome. Yeah. Well, I think we'll cut now here. We'll finish up, and then we'll start getting over some demonstrations and have you show us how the tool works and everything else. But everybody, this is Glenn from Camur Tool, and we'll be back in a little bit. This is Rob, National Fire Radio. Catch you guys in a little bit.